Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. We'll be talking this week about the NFL's Week 5 and the action that happened in last week and give some updates on our betting competition. We'll talk a little bit more about the Major League Baseball playoffs, and then we'll get into the Chiefs' Week 6 victory over the Denver Broncos on Thursday Night Football before making the rest of our Week 6 picks for this week's NFL games. Mike, last week was another kind of strange week in the NFL. This is more of a psychological question for you in general. What do you enjoy watching more? The good teams playing really well, or the bad teams playing pretty poorly? What's your preference when you're watching an NFL game?
I guess if they're playing against the Chiefs, I want the bad team to play poorly and the Chiefs to do well. But I like if it's a game that I don't really have a rooting interest for, I want to see it well played, and I like to see a good game, at least by one of the teams. And yeah, so this is I think. Well, unless it's like comically bad, maybe you want to see a couple of funny things. Like it was
Yeah,
maybe it's the Mac something happens to Mac Jones or something with Deshaun Watson. I kind of have an axe to grind with I don't really I don't mind seeing them do poorly. So I do want to see a good team do not so well, simply because I want the Chiefs to like have home field advantage, or be considered the team to beat. So do you take some joy in watching really bad football, I think, Dr.
yeah.
Scaff?
I think the best scenario is, watching two pretty good teams playing, one of which you like, one of which you don't like, and the one that you like a little more just destroys the one that you don't. That's probably the ideal NFL game, I think.
So is that the San Francisco Dallas game to you?
I don't really dislike Dallas so much, but
Hmm.
I mean, San Francisco looks really, really good, and they're a little scary
Hmm.
actually. As you know, as a Chiefs fan, you probably don't really want to face them if you don't
Well, yeah,
have
the
to.
Chiefs
But
were the
we
last
don't
team
we
to
don't play them in
beat.
the regular season, so the
Yeah,
only time we might meet them would be in the Super Bowl, which is
yeah,
an interesting matchup though.
yeah. The Chiefs have matched up well in the past. Last year they were the only team that beat San Francisco right before they went on their big winning streak, and they rolled in San Francisco. I think it was
Right.
44-21 or 45-21, something like that. Big victory, and then of course they beat one in the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 54. So guess this is going to be Super Bowl 58. So 4 years ago, but yeah, I apologize if I'm a little bit out of sorts. This is a special COVID edition of the Warren Track Power Hour, since I have contracted the SARS Corona 2019 virus, and am a little bit under the weather. And so I don't, when we're talking about our Week 5 action, I don't remember any of my picks for Week 5 right now. So hopefully you have those down, Dr. So I remember I went 1-2 on my locks, which isn't so great, but I think I'm still above 500 on the year. Do we want to talk about that, or do we want to talk about more general happenings in Week
We can
5?
go through the games, and then maybe there are other. We can talk about the picks, and then if there's anything else we want to talk about from Week 5, we can just jump into it. As
Okay, yeah, let's do that. Yeah, let's.
So let's see. Your first pick was you had New England -1.5 versus New Orleans.
That was not a good pick. Yeah, that was. I didn't. I thought coming off a huge loss, the Patriots at home wouldn't be so bad, but they were, and Mac Jones was bad again, and Bailey
Uh,
Zappi relieved him again, and maybe this
Again,
is, I had been beating the drum that I think Bailey Zappi is just as good as Mac Jones, maybe better, because he's doesn't have the kind of entitled, sort of snot nosed reputation, I think, that Jones has, whether that's real or not, or just in my brain. But So I was really surprised that I think New Orleans is a pretty good team, but I didn't think going to New England they've struggled against against Atlanta against they hadn't beaten anybody really by a lot of points. Every game was close, so I assumed at worst maybe New Orleans would win a close game, but this was um, what was this final score
34-0.
34-0. It was a shutout. I think it was the first ever the worst ever home loss for Bill Belichick in New England. That was followed by it followed his worst ever loss as a coach when he lost to the Cowboys in week 4. They lost 38-3, so they lost by one fewer point, but they scored 3 fewer points. So
Yeah.
really, really bad football played by the Patriots these last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Do you think the Patriots are just a really bad team, or is it coaching? What's wrong with New England?
It seems like the team just isn't that great, first of all, but that's still going to be Belichick's fault, I think, either way, because doesn't he make the personnel decisions? So
At least a lot of them, I think he's the main guy. They didn't really bring
yeah,
in any like high level talent. They got Juju Smith-Schuster in, who played pretty well for the Chiefs, but Smith-Schuster has lingering knee issues, and it might be his career might be almost over just because of his knee problems. So they don't have like top end
mm,
like elite talent on any position. And when you have a rookie quarterback, you should have some elite players at different positions. Like with the Chiefs, you can say, well, they don't have elite wide receiver talent because, well, Patrick Mahomes makes a bunch of money. And they also have Travis Kelce and Chris Jones on the other side. There's big numbers there. But for the Patriots, where's the money going? The line is okay, I guess, but it's yeah. The running, they brought in Ezekiel Elliott as a kind of stopgap, short yardage guy that he hasn't done a whole lot as a Patriot. So it's I don't know. And I wonder if maybe it's Belichick trying to get rid of Mac Jones and starting anew next year. There's rumors that because the Vikings are doing so poorly, maybe Kirk Cousins will be traded to a team, perhaps I don't know, like New England, something
no,
like that, or a team that maybe sees itself as a potential playoff team. I've heard back to Washington or Atlanta as well. I don't think New England's going to make a playoff push, but I think Cousins would do pretty well as a long term, or at least a 3 or 4 year starter
mm,
in New England. But
I don't know. Yeah,
yeah,
it seems like it's getting closer to a time where Belichick's job may actually be at risk. I mean, back-to-back 30-point losses is not going to be, no owner is going to be okay with that. I don't think so.
yeah, Robert
So
Kraft is not going to be happy. But does Belichick even have a hot seat available because he's won so much? Does he just kind of
I
go
don't
until it
know.
feels like it?
I mean, it seems like the easy thing you would say would be that maybe they bring in somebody to take over some of the personnel decisions and have him be more of a coach, or have him have it be make a choice as to what he would prefer to do, be the field general
Hmm.
or the GM, and not both.
Yeah,
Because something just isn't seeming like it's right there now, and something has to change, because it doesn't seem like it's maybe even bottomed out, because this is mid season, and they're losing games by 30 plus points, and against, at least this week, against a team that's not even that great, not a prolific offense by any means. It's still putting up 34 points against them. That's not great.
yeah,
um
yeah. This is a New Orleans team that was been close to most of the games, but the week before they were, manhandled at home by Tampa Bay, and they had just been, the games that New Orleans had won. They lost to Green Bay by a point in Green Bay where they were ahead, but that was with Carr, I think, got hurt. So maybe with
mm,
Derek Carr, they're a little better team. He was probably banged up a couple weeks ago. He seems like he's a little bit back to where he was, but they barely beat Carolina. They beat Tennessee by 1 point. So they've played a lot of close games, or they've been on the losing end of a kind of a blowout. So, seeing them blow out in New England, the Patriots is unusual. So that's what but I failed to see that coming Well, how about your first pick? What did you do
Um,
last week?
my first pick is a game we already talked about in our special Thursday night episode. I had the Chiefs and Vikings at under 53 and a half. Chiefs ended up winning that game 27-20. Relatively comfortable under the 53 and a half points. So
Yeah, one more touchdown
wish I would have
would
thrown it
have pushed
over.
it over,
Yeah.
but fortunately, the ARG system of Andy Reid kept it close, but maybe a little too close because Minnesota perhaps could have scored a touchdown at the end to tie it, and then that would have been putting it over and possibly even forcing the Chiefs into a loss. And they ended up covering the spread, just like they ended up. We'll talk about they ended up covering against Denver. It's yeah, they continue to kind of not want to score points at the end to remove all doubt, and they would rather just hold the ball and run the clock out. And
I think you
it's
may have even mentioned in a text message that they may have already started the ARG method, possibly even before the game started, is what you said during the week 6 matchup for the Chiefs.
I think they didn't want to get anybody hurt because they did get it to Kelsey a lot, but they didn't really throw the ball down the field. One time they did throw the ball really down the field that should have been six. There was one interception that became that was really a weird Mahomes throw. There was also a near interception on a pass interference penalty, and then there was a perfect throw that Mahomes made a good long throw to Kelsey one time, but he also made a throw to Justin Watson, who got injured on the play. I thought he actually got injured because the way he was catching the ball, like his hands were like straight up rather than like out. Don't you think
Yeah.
catch a ball like it's landing in your hands? Aren't you gonna like hold it with your palms up rather than like your fingers up? And like
Yeah.
the ball like landed on top of his finger, and I thought, oh, maybe it broke a finger, but he ended up falling on his elbow, and so Justin Watson
Yeah.
was. But that was a perfect throw, and I don't know. I guess I'm sad that Justin Watson got hurt, but I thought, well, if there's a deserved sort of just desserts kind of injury, it's not too serious. That was had he caught the ball, he would not have gotten injured. I don't think. I think he might have been
Uh, I think it was
to
the
run.
landing is where he was maybe
Yeah,
injured anyway, but
yeah,
he's been making some of those catches this season. More last season, he was not making any of those catches. He was
yeah.
open and the ball hit his hands and he wouldn't hang on to it,
He
or
had
he
that one
hit
good
and then
catch
drop it, and yeah, it was one of yeah.
against the Chargers, like in week 2 last year, that Mahomes did the kind of jump throw that
Yeah.
went 45 yards on a laser beam. But yeah, usually I don't know, maybe it's just small sample sizes. I don't think Watson's very good. So I hope that somebody else supplants him. Maybe Rashee Rice. He looked pretty good. Maybe Justin Ross, a different Justin. But
Or
who are
maybe
you
they bring back McCole Hardman.
Nicole Hardman, yeah, he seems. Frank Clark's been released. I think people are thinking Clark's going to come back. So yeah, this is I guess stuff we could talk. We talked about a little bit last time, and we could talk a little more when we talk about the Chiefs game before we talk about Week 6 action. But you want to talk about our next picks that we
Sure.
made? My
Let's see.
second pick.
Your second pick was you had Tennessee plus 1.5 at Indianapolis.
Yeah, I Tennessee plus 1.5 at Indianapolis, and that um, also the team that I thought would cover lost outright, and I actually picked Tennessee to win because I thought they would, but partly I think maybe it's because Gardner Minshew was the quarterback, and I thought maybe Richardson was going to play, and I don't remember now. Again, I'm my brain is mush thinking about last week and the reasoning behind my decisions, but I think this week it's going to be Minshew as the quarterback for the Colts. So I think in the short term the Colts are a lot better off with Minshew, excuse me, than with Richardson, at least this year. They won't get a maybe good draft pick, but it was also Jonathan Taylor's first time back, but it wasn't Taylor
Mm,
at the big running day. It was Zach Moss who had the big running day last week to kind of frustrate fantasy owners because I think everybody got rid of Moss because
right, because they
they thought
thought
Taylor's coming back, and
Taylor's
now
back.
Moss
Yes.
going to be the um,
Well, and
maybe
Tennessee had been playing a lot better in the last week or
yeah.
two they look like maybe they'd figured it out, and then
Yeah,
somehow the
it's
Colts. So Richardson did well. He was injured in the game. He apparently has a AC socket issue
yeah.
to keep him out for now several weeks, I guess. So he just made his
They,
return, and now he's going to be out for several weeks.
okay, so then having Minshew come in instead of Richardson, I think helped get a little cough here. Help the Colts pull away, and it's a division game. Those are always a little bit squirrely, and so yeah, that was another miss for me.
But more important than helping the Colts is he undermined your bet is really what your concern level is, right? So
yeah, I maybe because I've spoken out against the Colts kind of craziness last year, that the Colts were a team that going into last year everybody thought was going to be a playoff team, and they lost their first two games because they had Matt Ryan. They thought of Matt Ryan as being an improvement even over Philip Rivers, who should have led the team to the playoffs, but they couldn't beat the lowly Jaguars in the final game, and so yeah, but the Matt Ryan experiment didn't work out well, maybe because of self-sabotage more than anything by the Colts. But yeah, so it's a team that was regarded pretty highly recently and still has most of their core components that they've had. It's got Jonathan Taylor, they've got Pittman and some other good receivers. They have a very good offensive line. They have a strong defense. So they're a decent team. So maybe there's somebody that can make a run in the AFC South, which is a real logjam at this point.
Yeah. It's my second pick. I had Baltimore -3.5 at Pittsburgh. That did not go. That was one of the worst games I may have ever seen. This is very frustrating to watch as Baltimore seemed to just make mistake after mistake after mistake. And Pittsburgh, who is seemingly a very bad team, manages to not just cover the spread but win the game. I find that very frustrating.
Yeah, that was one of the few games I actually got completely right last week. I ended up losing a lot of money in my fake betting, but I did pick Pittsburgh, who was an underdog, to win outright, and I think I got the over under, and I got the point spread on that one. So I don't know. I just thought that Pittsburgh at home and Baltimore is. I don't know. I don't think you can trust Lamar Jackson anymore. And I don't know exactly why, because I don't know if his play has fallen off or it's just that people have figured out what he does and just make him throw more. And so, yeah, that was a weird game. I think I just thought I saw it as being potentially weird. So that's why I went with what I did. But from a more logical standpoint, I think what you did was fine. But yeah, it did not turn out the way you wanted. And for neither of us, we ended up missing two of our locks and only getting the final lock correct.
Your final bet was San Francisco -3.5 versus Dallas, which went completely your way. Yes.
Yeah, that was another one completely. It's like I don't think Dallas is very good. And I think Dallas is only good when their defense scores like 3 touchdowns. And it's done that a couple of games and they look, oh, wow, look at them against the Giants. But it was like the special teams touchdown and defensive touchdown and in a rainstorm. And Daniel Jones was just out of his element. And when the Giants do poorly, it really, really spirals. Like when in the playoff game, when they played against the Eagles, when they did poorly, it really, really snowballed into a horrible loss. And so I don't think Dallas is a bad team, but I don't think they're a great team. I think there's only two, maybe Dallas might not even be a top 4 team in the NFC. I think, the top 2 obviously are San Francisco and Philadelphia, probably in that order. And then I think probably Detroit and Seattle are the other 2 teams that are the best 2 teams this year, which Detroit, I think people saw coming, but Seattle, I don't think people did, but they were a playoff team last year. So I guess they didn't fool too many people. So, but yeah, I don't know about Dallas. But yeah, that was I don't know why that, I couldn't understand why that spread was so close because the 49ers don't care about blowing people out. They like to do it. It's like they're the anti Andy Reid in that situation. Yeah. They will run the score up. Kind of like Miami will run the score up with Shanahan type coaches with McDaniel down Miami, they'll score 70 points and don't really care. And, Reed is upset when they score 24 and the other team only has 10. And you can't, we're not going to make it 31-10, unless it just really falls into us. So it's a completely, it's hard to, it's like one thing that makes betting so hard is because it's hard to see how good the teams really are because margin of victory seems like it means very little because some teams want to win big and have fun winning big, and other teams want to just get into a shell, don't get injured, and keep the score somewhat close and gentlemanly and go forward. So yeah, but yeah, I was wondering why 3.5. It was only 3.5 points. I thought San Francisco should have been at least a touchdown favorite because 3.5 would have been Dallas and San Francisco are really within 1 point of each other or so, rather than because home field advantage, I think, especially in San Francisco, maybe it's about 3 points. So yeah, I don't see Dallas as being in the same league. Defensively, I think San Francisco is probably better, even though the defense is the strength of Dallas. And offensively, their system is really, really good, and their players are really good, and allows Brock Purdy to, just distribute the ball to really good players and just let them do their thing.
Well, maybe this was another case of maybe some very wealthy Texas oil tycoons were betting heavily on Dallas and pulling the line closer that way. That made your bet more favorable then.
Yeah, you wonder that could have been.
We don't. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
We're not really tracking any of
We've
these.
talked about the Chicago Bears effect in Las Vegas
Right.
before, where super fans go into Vegas to bet on the Bears, and so the Bears Super Bowl odds are always over exaggerated. They're only plus, I don't know, 1,000 or something, or 2,000 to win the Super Bowl when they really are plus 10,000 team or something like that. It's one of those things where big cities sometimes can affect things, and maybe certain cities or regions have more of a, maybe they aren't as quite savvy as bettors, or they have an inflated sense of themselves more when they bet. So I guess maybe New York bettors would think of as being a little savvier. I don't know. There's also two teams to divide. You have Jets and Giants, so maybe Jets fans might bet against the Giants, where the other way around to kind of keep it better. But I don't know. So what did you see out of what did you see out of San Francisco that you think is scary going forward?
Well, I mean, they've got a really, really, really solid defense, and they protect the ball so well on offense too. Brock Purdy, former
he doesn't throw a lot
Cyclone,
of interceptions.
is very careful with the ball. Hasn't thrown, no interceptions on the season still. Hasn't lost a regular season start yet. So, and then they also have Christian McCaffrey running 10, 12 yards a carry now too. So that's I mean that's a lot of strengths.
Yeah,
And
Kittle
they
got
still
a
have
big
gadget kind of plays out there too with Samuel and Ayuk. They've got fast receivers too, so they've got
they're good receivers.
everything.
Kittle's a good player. Juszczyk, even when they use him, is good. They have a good line. Trent Williams is one of the top linemen in the game. They have a very solid defense. So yeah, I think if there's defense, I think is maybe less splashy than Dallas, but I think they're more solid overall. Yeah. And
they held Dallas to only 10 points, and Dallas is supposed to have a pretty high-powered offense too, right? So
they got a lot of turnovers against Dallas, but I don't think they needed those turnovers to beat Dallas. Dallas needed to get a lot of turnovers from San Francisco to beat San Francisco, and I think turnover luck is exactly what it is, luck, and it's something that you can't rely on. I remember when I was a kid, I remember thinking, the giveaway takeaway ratio was very important because the Chiefs were always tops at it, but the Chiefs never won anything in the playoffs because if there's one bad game and the other team doesn't give the ball away, and what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do if your offense isn't good enough to really it should be how good is your team when things don't go your way, and if you can still win by not playing your best game, that's the team that's probably going to go far in the playoffs, and that's what the Chiefs have been under Reed the last few years. So, and
Yeah,
It's what.
it seems like it's a lot easier to be a fan of a team that has a good offense and a defense that can come up in big situations, at least, right? So
Yeah.
that seems like the easier route for fans to actually be enjoying all of the games, right?
Yeah, I think in the Chiefs defense, it looks like it is becoming a little bit more like that.
Mm.
They've had a really good defense this year, and it seems like maybe after this week, coming into week 7 now, we're talking about week 6 for everybody else, but Chiefs already played week 6. It's got you got a Menahue back as a defensive end top tackle kind of hybrid. Maybe Frank Clark coming back. It's one of those things where the Chiefs are adding. Bolton came back this past week and had a great interception against
Yep.
Russell Wilson. So, yeah, the defense is fun to watch, but yeah, for Dallas, it's really fun to watch if you're a Dallas fan because they get those big plays. But when Trayvon Diggs went down, a lot of their big plays went away, and that really, hurt them even more than maybe what people thought. So, how about your third pick?
My third pick did not go my way either. It was Houston plus 1.5 at Atlanta. Houston had been playing pretty well recently, and did came up just short,
Mm-hmm.
half a point short was all they needed. Plus 1.5. Final score: Atlanta 21, Houston 19.
Lost by 2. Yeah, I thought Houston was going to win that game outright. I always go against Atlanta. I don't think Atlanta's very good, but Atlanta at home has been winning some. So I actually went in my bets this week. They were not any of my locks, but I picked Atlanta to win at home this week, even though I don't think Atlanta's very good. But I picked them to win at home against Washington, who I think is about probably equivalent to Houston in a lot of ways.
In week 5, you did pick with me actually on Houston, Atlanta anyway, but
I did.
Yeah, and we both suffered for it.
Yeah, well, you ended up being not too bad on the course of the week. So let me talk about our locks again. So were you 0-3 on your?
I got the Chiefs Minnesota game.
The
So
Chiefs.
we were
Okay, so you're
both
1-2. I
1-2.
was 1-2. And where does that bring us on the season? I think I'm still above 500.
Your season total now is 8-7,
8-7.
$100 on the season. And I am the reverse. I'm 7-8 minus $100.
Okay,
After
so that's
my 2 straight losing weeks now that I've now dipped under the 500 mark.
Still anybody's game, but in terms of our bets on our more comprehensive picks, you continued to outpace me, and we both ended up losing money, but you lost a lot less money last week.
Yeah, I was down only $62.05. It was about 1.5% on the week. You were down $499.80. You stayed under the minus 500 by $2.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe I'd get closer overall back to breaking even, but then I got minus 500 again. So now I'm almost $1,200 in the hole, $1,164, and you're almost the mirror opposite of that. The absolute value of it, you're about $1,160, $1,170 ahead. So you're about $2,300 ahead of me this season.
Yeah. But that can be made up very quickly though. You had a plus $1,100 last week, so that deficit could easily be halved, if not more, with one solid week here this week.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about our week in a little bit. Do you want to talk a little bit about switch sports for a second? Talk about baseball, since the playoffs are here and they're almost, it seems like, passing much more quickly than any of us would have realized because there are no competitive series. Some of the games have been competitive, but the series as a whole, there have been no series that have gone to the final game. There have been, the wild card series were all sweeps 2-0, and then the divisional series were either 3-0 sweeps or 3-1 wins. So no games 5 for any of them. Are you surprised at the results here in the playoffs?
I'm not I guess not terribly surprised at the results. I think maybe the thing that is a little surprising is that all the very high win total teams are all out. So the 101 win Orioles, the 104 win Braves, and the 100 win Dodgers are all gone at this point. And yeah, as are the 92 win Brewers.
Yeah, every team in the Final
Yeah.
Four,
99 win
Houston,
Rays. Yeah, it's crazy.
Houston, yeah, Houston, Texas are both under 90 wins, and so were
Well, exactly 90 wins.
90 wins. Okay, 90 wins or less then.
Yeah.
And then the Diamondbacks and the Phillies were also under 90 wins this season. So, but
But yeah, apparently 90 was a magic number. The Phillies also were exactly
were
90.
90.
Yeah.
Okay, so 90 or fewer
Three,
was
three teams with exactly 90 wins, plus the 84 win D-backs are
yeah.
headed to the championship series.
Do you have team? So this is the seventh consecutive ALCS for the Houston Astros. Several of them have been under the cloud of sign stealing and various trickery, chicanery, cheating, for lack of a better word. Do you think that
Although
Houston?
there were 6 of them. Better words, that is, right?
Yes, yes, skullduggery, things like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you think that is Houston clean, or are they still cheating like in the playoffs? Maybe they aren't so much in the regular season.
I mean, if Houston lost 120 games in a season, I assume they cheated for their 42 wins. That's pretty much where I think a lot of baseball fans are right now. And I don't really care what they do. I'm not going to like them, I don't think so. It's
Yeah, so I think everybody outside the Houston metropolitan area wants the Texas Rangers to go to the World Series for the American League. So I think both of us are in that same boat, I believe. How about in the National League?
yeah. I think both teams have had like really good like fan support. Their home crowds have been very raucous at both stadiums, but I kind of like the Phillies comeback after the sort of crazy end to the game 2.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Harper getting doubled off at first to end the game, and then their comeback afterwards. It's kind of hard not to like that kind of like fire that they've drawn
I
themselves
like,
back into.
yeah, I like Bryce Harper. I think he's kind of a jerk, but I kind of like him,
Yeah.
and he's a classic kind of baseball personality. I think he's a
Yeah.
brash kind of player, but also he's a really good player, and he's been he's got a little bit of maybe the George Brett kind of quality to him. And the Phillies won the World Series back in 2008, but then that was of course before Bryce Harper was even in the league. He came into the league maybe 2 or 3 years later as a teenager. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated like at 16 and was the
Right.
number one overall draft pick by the Nationals, who of course won the World Series right after Harper left to go to Philadelphia. So maybe seeing Philadelphia have a chance with Harper to win, I would like to see. Also, maybe being close to Pennsylvania, I wouldn't mind seeing that either. I wouldn't mind seeing the Rangers finally winning a World Series either. So those would be my two teams as well.
And I guess from the actual Major League Baseball, the organization's perspective, do you think they have a preference as to who they would like to see maybe for TV viewers? Do you think there's a preference between? I mean, obviously they're getting a Texas team either way, which is a large state,
Large
lots of
markets.
representation. But then, yeah, you think there's a difference between Arizona and Pennsylvania?
I think there's an East Coast quality of baseball watching that does not really exist in the Southwest. I think that Philadelphia will bring in more ratings than the Diamondbacks. Nobody cares about the Diamondbacks outside of Arizona, probably, and maybe not even a lot of people in Arizona. So I think Philadelphia is a diehard sports town. Those northern towns that are, I think, where the weather is bad and where times have been tough historically. Those are the ones that those are the people that kind of live and die. Maybe Arizona has a large Hispanic community and things like that that is a little bit hard to scrabble, but there's not some. I think when we think of the fans at the Diamondbacks games, they are not the gardeners, the landscapers, the lower working class people. It's old retirees and kind of
Yeah.
wealthy um, McMansion type of residents. So there's Arizona is not. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't. They don't support really their teams very much in general
Well,
because
that ends up being like, yeah, if it's a retirement sort of area, then people that are moving from wherever they grew up, they're sort of bringing their fandom with them more so than just maybe adopting even a local team afterwards. But their
yeah,
loyalty probably still lies back with where they came from more than where they are. So the loyalty is probably divided a lot there anyway. But
yeah,
also like in the Northeast, there are a lot of people who don't like the Phillies that will tune in to root against them also. And I don't think the Diamondbacks have enough like enemy type teams that they would be tuning in to see them do poorly if they go. Right. So
do people tune in to root against Houston, or are they just completely turned off by Houston and won't even watch it because Houston is just a bunch of cheaters in their mind? Is that like I think I don't know because Houston maybe has gone too far in their dislike. Like they aren't like they don't have this history maybe of like either in the NFL like the Raiders or the Cowboys where there's just as many people that really hate them as enjoy them and or the Yankees in baseball.
yeah,
So I would like to see. I think probably Major League Baseball would want to see the Rangers, Phillies.
yeah. I would think that way it's like more of a team that hasn't won has a chance because the Rangers have not won a World Series. They've
Hmm.
been to two.
They were two in a row in the
Yeah,
early in
yeah.
the
2010, 2011, I think.
yeah that era, yeah, maybe 11 and 12, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was
somewhere in there.
about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. But yeah, they were in two in a row but didn't win either. And they're the yeah, then the Royals were the next team to be in two World Series in a row after that. So, of
Yeah,
course, they won one. But yeah, Houston, I mean, Texas hadn't won any, and now Houston has been in seven. They were like, in some ways, the Chiefs of the league. And, maybe some NFL conspiratorial fans believe the Chiefs get all the calls and things like that, which I don't really see any evidence for if you look at the games as a whole. But the Astros, yeah, they have such a blatant history of bending, breaking, stomping on the kind of rules and traditions of the game that I yeah I don't really
well, and then not really serving any penalty for even being
yeah
caught doing things. So like, because then it was the COVID year is what happened next. So like most of the penalties that may have been levied against them maybe on the field even were sort of gone.
yeah
Where
they
most
wasn't
times
even
baseball justice happens, yeah, on the field itself, and they were, I think, pretty much told by baseball not to do that, which I think maybe makes some of the fans think that there was no consequence for their actions.
yeah
And
yeah
really the only player that was affected by it was Carlos Beltran, who retired
yeah
to then attempt to become a manager, but then the deal was nixed, and he has not been around, being talked about as being a manager since then. So that's really the only punishment was sort of like directly on one guy who wasn't really, you know,
yeah
affected by it, like in his like how he's playing at least anyway. So
and yeah I would say also thinking about a former Royal who's played on a current Royal, maybe now former if he's retired after the end of this year, Zach Greinke. He of course played for the Diamondbacks.
mm,
Didn't quite make. He made the playoffs a couple of times with the Diamondbacks. Didn't quite win. He played for the Astros. They made the playoffs sometimes, but they didn't end up winning the World Series while he was a player. He played for the Dodgers. It's not like he is on one of the teams now where you might root for him because Zach Greinke's probably my favorite player. In the league. But so yeah, there's no reason that even like maybe you would say, well, I want Greinke to win for Houston. Maybe you have the Rangers or you have Verlander in the for the Astros, but he's won before and uh,
yeah,
Scherzer. he won as well, I guess, with the Nationals. So there's no one, I guess, that's without a ring on the, except for the Rangers, kind of as a whole. It seems like.
Yeah,
So I usually want to root for the American League team, but I might pull for the Phillies if they make it.
yeah, yeah. That seems good. Yeah.
Speaking of Philadelphia, Jason Kelsey had a uh, tirade, I guess, or rant against artificial surfaces because Travis Kelsey was injured, but Travis seemed to play pretty well against the Denver Broncos, and he was mostly no worse for wear, although his ankle was rolled up on a little bit at the end. One of the problems with the Amazon broadcast, I think, was that they didn't show like the highlight all the way through, the replay all the way through, and they would, kind of cut away and say, "Oh, this is what happened," but like you couldn't see like, "Oh, did at the end of the game when Kelsey was grabbed by the ankles, did the tackler did he twist or grab it extra, or did he just kind of grab him there and that was just a coincidence?" And it was something that they cut away from, and you couldn't really see a lot of what was happening, I think, in that game. But the Chiefs ended up pulling it out 19-8. Do you know when the last 19-8 score was?
Nope, no, not a
Yeah.
clue. In the scoregami realm.
Yes. It was not a scoregami, even though it had
No.
been. It was only it was the second 19-8 game. It had been 96 years since a game
Really?
had 19-8, and it was between New York and Buffalo, but it was between the New York Yankees baseball team, who had 19, and the Buffalo Bisons, who had 8. In 1927, there was a game in Buffalo. The Bisons lost 19-8.
Wow.
And those 8 included a safety. There was no safety in the.
Oh, I was hoping it was 4 safeties.
No, it was a safety, and I assume it's a touch. Yeah, a safety and a touchdown with a missed extra point.
Well, 1908, they may not have even had extra points.
1927. This is 27.
Oh,
So
27.
Red Grange played for the Yankees
Oh, okay.
in that game, and they did kick an extra point. The Yankees for their first touchdown, but then they must have missed the 2 extra points afterward. Wild Bill Kelly also scored a 12-yard rushing touchdown, and then also in the fourth quarter, the Yankees' Wild Bill Kelly had an unknown length of rushing touchdown. We don't know how long it was, but that was to score 6 more points and put the game out of reach. It was, at one point, the score was 7-0, 7-2, 13-2, 13-8, 19-8. But yeah, it was Red Grange and Wild Bill Kelly for the New York Yankees football team, not the baseball team.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. I thought that was interesting.
Does it have the full box score there too? Does it have yardages, passing yardages? Was there a forward pass yet at that point in 1927?
Yeah, 1906 was when it was legalized forward pass.
Okay.
So what do you think Wild Bill Kelly's first name was?
I would assume William. Is that not?
Kenneth. He was Kenneth Kelly. So he was Wild. It doesn't make any sense.
Wow.
This was also before the Buffalo Bills became the Buffalo team. Was not the Buffalo Bills. It was the Buffalo Bison or Bisons, maybe, I believe. And he was a longtime coach of the Central Michigan Chippewas. Actually, maybe that's a different Wild Bill Kelly. There's a different Wild Bill Kelly, maybe. I don't know. Well, I'll look at. Oh, maybe this Wild Bill Kelly. I thought was the same age because he was born in 1905, so that would have made him 22 in 1927. But I think this Wild Bill Kelly, Kenneth Kelly, was simply the coach at Central Michigan, and there's no listing of him playing professionally for any other team that's not Central Michigan. So I'm not sure about the Wild Bill Kelly of the. No, this is William Carl Kelly. So he was a William.
Uh,
He does not have a Wikipedia page. He has a Pro Football Reference page. He was
hmm,
from Montana. That makes sense why you can call him Wild Bill then.
uh,
He died at age 26 in 1931. And I
wow.
don't know why. He did not play football in 1931. He played for the New York Yankees. Then he played for the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets, which I have no idea where the Frankfurt. It's not Frankfurt like Kentucky. It's Frankfurt with a D.
Oh,
Um, any guesses where Frankfurt?
nope, not a clue. Probably the Northeast somewhere.
Frankfurt. They lived in Philadelphia. There's a neighborhood called Frankfurt, I guess,
Hmm.
in suburban Philadelphia. So the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets he played for a year, and then he ended up playing another year for the Brooklyn Dodgers football team. So he played for the Yankees and the Dodgers, but he played football, not baseball. And then he died at age 26. And
Oh,
I don't know. Yeah, I kind of want to read more into him because he's only 26 years old and he doesn't have a um no Wikipedia page, no
hmm.
real information about it. But he played on Red Grange's team, and he actually in that game, the 19-8 game, he scored 2 touchdowns for the Yankees, and Red Grange had only scored one, the legendary galloping ghost, uh,
Yes.
Red Grange. Do you know Red Grange's first name?
No, it's not red.
No, it's Harold Edward
Hmm.
Red Grange. So I guess he had red hair, which
Hmm.
why he was Red Grange, I suppose. Maybe Ed and Red could be a nickname as well, but I've only
Okay.
seen black and white footage of Red Grange, so I guess. But yeah, he played for the Bears and then the short-lived New York Yankees uh, football team.
So is the box score there from that game? Does it show like passing yardages?
It shows
My curiosity would be
score.
if any of the 1927 quarterbacks had more passing yards than Russell
It
Wilson.
doesn't show any yardages.
Ah,
It shows
ah.
scores. Wait, there are player. Let's see player stats. There's something. I don't think it has any. The attendance in that game was 3,500 people. Yeah, there's no individual
Ah.
scores, any individual stats at Bison Stadium in Buffalo. 3,500 people were at the game, so um, that's not very many. It's a big high school game,
Yeah, basically.
but anyway, that was the only other 19-8 game. So it was almost a scoregami, but it was 96 years earlier. There had been another one. But anyway, Chiefs won 19-8. They actually covered. We went over our bets before. We had said, well, we didn't think the Chiefs would cover because they don't want to win by more than 10 points. It was a 10 and a
Yeah.
half point spread. It was looking pretty good for a while, but then they kicked that field goal to make it 19-8 rather than
Hmm.
16-8.
And
So
then force another turnover inside the 2 minute warning to make sure that Denver never had a chance.
yes,
Yeah. So
but they did keep it well under the 47. Was it
yeah,
47?
that sounds right. Nope,
Uh,
44 and a half. No,
40,
that's the last
46 and a half. 46 and a half.
46 and a half. There it is.
46 and a half. And we both went on the under there and we both picked the Chiefs to win. So, but we ended
Yeah.
up missing by half a point or 1 point, I guess. We missed the winning spread. So we had a pretty good opener, but we'll see how the rest of the week goes. But neither of us picked that game as a lock, but we both thought the Chiefs would win. Any other comments? We've kind of been commenting on the Chiefs game kind of
Yeah.
all the
Uh,
way through.
did you remain to be impressed with the Chiefs defense? They were able to force 3 turnovers, I think, in the game, and held Russell Wilson to just 95 yards passing. Are
Yeah, it was
you
pretty
still pretty
good.
confident in the defense, or is it? Do you think they even underwhelmed, even though they did quite well?
I thought the defense was great. Because Buffalo, I mean, not Buffalo, Denver's problem was not their offense; it had been their defense. And then This time, it looked like the Denver defense was really, really good, and the Chiefs' offense couldn't do anything or much of anything. Mahomes looked kind of off. The receivers never seemed to get open.
Except for
Mahomes,
Kelsey.
except for Kelsey, Mahomes had that really bad interception that he just kind of threw it up for grabs, and it looked like he was starting to throw it away, but it only went to into the end zone. He almost threw another interception. So I don't know. I'm still concerned about the Chiefs' offense and whether or not it's become a little bit stale and predictable. Because really, the reason that Kelsey is open is because he does not run the routes prescribed. He does his own thing, and that's why he's so successful. If he did what was supposed to be done, maybe he would not be nearly as successful. So that kind of also implies that maybe Nagy's offense, the Reed offense, needs to be something needs to be retooled, perhaps.
Yeah. For the most part, they look pretty good. I think they were in control like from the very beginning. They didn't seem
yardage was good.
Yeah.
This was the best game maybe Harrison Butker has played for a long time.
Yeah.
A 60-plus yard field goal and a 54-yarder.
How far do you think that would have been good from? 60-yard field goal, I think, on paper, right? But
yeah, it was
plenty of room there. Right?
Assuming that it would have gone through the uprights because the wind was swirling. So maybe if it had gone 10 more yards, it would have doinked or something. But I think it would have been a 70, good from 70 at least. It was it was a strange wind. So I think it was just a really impressive night for Butker. And so he was, I think, the Chiefs probably player of the game. He scored, you get 4 field goals and an extra point. So 19-8 Chiefs. That was a very unpredictable score. Do you we want to talk about our predictions, our locks of the week for week 6?
Sure. What we're expecting to see in week 6, yes.
What we're expecting to see, yeah. You want me to go with mine first? Do you want to?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so I ended up making, of course, our 3 locks of the week. 2 of them I ended up picking over unders rather than spreads. We talked a little about Indianapolis earlier. I went to the Indianapolis-Jacksonville game here. Jacksonville is coming back from their 2 weeks in London, back to their Florida home to face the Colts, and Gardner Minshew is going to be playing quarterback for the Colts. I actually think there's a possibility of an upset there, but that was not my pick. My pick was that Indianapolis-Jacksonville was going to be under 44.5 total. I don't think they're going to score a lot of points. Jacksonville's offense isn't terribly potent, and I don't think Indianapolis is going to score a lot of points either. Jacksonville's defense is decent, and I think it's going to be 23-17 type of game. So I see it as an under 44.5.
Well, even if it's like 30-14, if it's on the high end, you're still fine there, right? So
yeah,
something in that area, right? So
yeah.
How
about your first pick, Mr. Skev?
My first pick is also an over under. There was a very low over under number for the San Francisco Cleveland game at only 37.5 points, and the 49ers have been scoring 30 plus points a game in every game, not just averaging, but actually in each game. I think I'm taking the over in this one. I think you may be going the other way.
I'm on the opposite side there. I have the under, but I think it's mainly because not that I don't think San Francisco is good, but I think the Browns defense is okay, but I don't know if the Browns will be able to score any points because they don't really have a quarterback that's, it's going to be, Deshaun Watson's not playing. Was it shoulder injury? He's got some sort of injury that they seem to have cleared him last or 2 weeks ago even, but he didn't play. Now he's not playing again. It's PJ Walker rather than Dorian Thompson-Robinson who's going to start. So
I hadn't heard that yet.
Yeah, so I don't know how many points they're going to score. I can see it as like a 30-3 game, and that would be under. So that's the only reason I think it's under is because I think the Browns are going to be very impotent on.
But if their offense is that bad, then San Francisco's offense is going to be on the field even more.
Yeah,
which may
just run the clock.
Score, so
yeah, it could be 40-0 rather than 30-3 or something. But I don't know. I think the defense for the Browns is still pretty good. So I think maybe the Browns can hold them into the low 30s, and maybe like a 30, because if it had finished exactly the same way that Pittsburgh finished, 30-7, that would be under. When the 49ers in week one went to Pittsburgh and won 30-7, that was a 37 total. That would be under the 37.5. So
Yeah.
I think I don't really know. I've been just picking under if I don't really have a feel for it. And so I didn't really have a feel, and I could kind of talk myself into the under for that one. But you got the over, and given how powerful the offense has been for the 49ers, they could score that many points themselves. So
yeah,
I don't think it's a bad pick.
It does look like it's a rotator cuff for Watson, and it's a thing he may miss more time than just this week. So more on that, I guess.
Injury. I picked another under for my second pick, and that was a sort of not quite rematch, but the same teams that were in the baseball playoffs, same cities that were in the baseball playoffs when Arizona beat the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks beat the Dodgers. I have the Cardinals playing against the Los Angeles Rams in Los Angeles. That over-under is 48.5, and I went with the under. I think 48.5 is pretty high. I don't, Arizona doesn't have a great offense. Kyler Murray is not coming back at any time soon, it doesn't seem like. I think Joshua Dobbs is okay, but I don't see them scoring a lot of points against the Rams. And the Rams, even though they've been winning some games and staying close, they haven't been scoring a ton of points either. So I see it maybe I think the Rams are going to win, but I think Arizona might keep it somewhat close. So I could see it maybe a 27-21 type of game or something like that as at the high end, and that would be 48. So I like it. I like it under. I think it's probably 24-17 type of game.
I would agree with you on your guess, at least anyway, as to what the over under is going to be, because it seems like if Arizona does well, it may be like a 24-20 game or something like that.
Yeah.
But if Arizona doesn't do well, it's probably going to be like a 24-10 type of game.
Yeah.
So either way, whichever team wins, which you don't really care who wins, you just don't think that the point total is going to be very high. That seems very reasonable. Yeah, I agree with your assessment there.
Thank you, sir. How about your second?
My second pick, going with the battle of green teams. Got the Eagles -7 at the New York Jets. I really don't see the Jets competing in this game, and there will likely be at least 2 tush push type touchdowns, which will, right? It just seems like that's what's going to happen, right? And then the Eagles will roll, but it won't be like a huge scoring game. But the Eagles will probably come out more than a touchdown ahead, is my assumption.
I was thinking maybe the Jets would keep it close because they're playing pretty well lately. The defense is playing pretty well. They might win by, I think the Eagles will win, but I don't know if they'll blow it. The Eagles haven't really had a great offense so far, and Zach Wilson's been playing better. They scored a lot of points against the Broncos. They almost, they came close, not close to beating, but close. They stayed with the Chiefs. They only lost 23-20, so they covered that. Yeah. So maybe they can stay close. So but I understand that. Well, it's very possible that Zach Wilson turns back into old Zach Wilson, and it's an easy, and maybe the Eagles become the Eagles of last year rather than the Eagles of this year, which is kind of a plodding, not so exciting team. And maybe they'll be a high flying, the fly Eagles of last year. So maybe I could see it going either way. But I was thinking maybe the Jets might keep it close, but 7 points. That's something that's maybe almost looking for a push in some ways. So I wanted to stay away from that one. But
have you heard the alternate name for the tush push though?
The brotherly shove. It's pretty funny, but I think it's a stupid play, and they should just get rid of it.
It should be renamed outlawed, not allowed in football.
Yeah, I don't like because it becomes just arbitrary when forward progress is called, because usually the person who's this quarterback is not on the ground; he's just floating in the air, and on bodies and stuff like that. And as long as you don't blow the whistle, he can keep moving. It seems like so. It's I think it's a dumb play, but so far it hasn't been outlawed. Somebody's gonna have to get hurt again during it, and
Probably that'll be what changes the league's view on it. How about
yeah,
your third pick?
I had a hard time thinking of a third shoe in or lock of the week, so I ended up going uh, with a team that played really well on the road last week against New England and against a young quarterback, and they're going to New Orleans. Is a 1.5 point favorite over Houston. Houston's not very far from New Orleans, so I don't think it's really much of a road game. I don't know. I don't know how raucous the Houston fans are yet with the teams that they've been losing so much, and they're kind of expected to be rebuilding, even though they've been a lot better with CJ Stroud than people thought. I think, but I still see New Orleans as winning that game, so it's only -1.5. So I think more than likely, if they win, they will win by more than 1.5 points. So I went with New Orleans -1.5 at the Texans.
Well, Houston's coming off a loss to Atlanta. We think probably New Orleans is probably better than Atlanta, is what we
Yes, I think
think we
so.
assume. So that seems to make a lot of
I
sense.
think New Orleans is probably the best. Well, New Orleans is probably the second best team in the South. Maybe Tampa is number one, but they're about this. I think they're 1 and 2 for sure. Then I think Atlanta's a distant third, and then Carolina's a distant fourth, probably. But
New Orleans is probably aided by having maybe the best quarterback in the division, though, too. So
yeah, I think Derek Carr's
he's
pretty good. He seems like
been
he's
kind of injured, and maybe he's a little healthier now.
yeah. You might say Baker Mayfield maybe if he's healthy can is rivals Carr, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think Carr is it's no surprise that the two teams with the two best quarterbacks in the division are the two best teams. So I don't think Desmond Ritter is going to be. He was another one of those guys maybe that teams that maybe Kirk Cousins might end up getting traded to if the Vikings continue to lose because Justin Jefferson now is on IR. So maybe they'll get rid of that big salary and kind of rebuild and implode the Vikings team. And in the NFC South or the NFC, if you're kind of 500 and you have a decent quarterback, you can go pretty far in the playoffs probably. So that
At
might
least,
be a
at least make the playoffs, maybe even with a not a winning record, even. So
yeah. It's NFC is just not
it's a
very
low bar to
yeah.
for what is considered success. Yeah.
Yeah. How about your final shoe in your lock of
I
the
actually stayed in that division as well with betting against a team in the NFC South. I've got Detroit -3 at Tampa as my third.
hmm.
Seems
This
like
was
Detroit is running pretty well recently. I kind of expect to see that success continue.
yeah, it'll depend on Tampa's maybe we'll see if Tampa's Mirage or an actual solid team if they can hang with the Lions. The Lions do it. They did beat the Chiefs in a kind of weird game in week 1. But the Lions have only lost one game, and that was to the Seahawks. We talked a little about Seattle as a surprise team, and but maybe not really a surprise team since they were in the playoffs last year. So I think clearly the Lions are one of the top teams, but it's a road game, so you never know what's going to happen on the road. And
Eh,
even though we don't think of Tampa as having home field advantage, but it's and I guess Detroit plays in fairly warm weather all the time since they play in the dome, so maybe it's not going to be a big deal. It's on grass, so maybe they're not as good on grass. Who knows? But yeah, I could see if Detroit wins, probably they'll win by more than a field goal. So yeah, I makes sense to me. I think I ended up picking Tampa in that game just to maybe try to make more money on the money line. So if I picked them on the money line, I wanted them to.
uh,
Um, I thought they would cover as well. So, but
any other games this week that you're looking forward to on the week 6 slate?
yeah, there aren't a lot of marquee matchups. I think the Baltimore Tennessee game in London might be kind of interesting.
No.
I thought about going under for that one, 41.5, but I didn't do that as a lock of the week. Um, I think the Monday night game, Dallas and the Chargers could be really interesting. If the Chargers lose that game, really the division is completely wide open for the Chiefs, since they'll be 5-1, and I think they'll have a 2-game lead over um, The Chargers. I think Chargers are 3-2 right now, or are they just 2-2?
Yeah, 2-2.
They didn't play last week. Did they?
Yeah, they had a bye last week. Yeah.
So they'll be 2-3. The Chiefs will be 5-1 with the game in hand. So like I think 2.5 game lead, and they play the Chargers. I believe is it in Kansas City on next Sunday.
I think so. Yeah, that's right.
So that'll
And
be a
this
big game.
and this week, two of the teams that have maybe baffled us maybe the most are in buys this week: Green Bay and Pittsburgh. Is that you feel better about that, knowing that they're not out there to mess up?
Not causing trouble. Like, sometimes it seems like Jordan Love's pretty good, and sometimes he seems like he's terrible. Same thing with Kenny Pickett. Sometimes he seems like he's pretty good, and then other times he seems he's terrible. I think Pittsburgh has a more consistent defense at least, so they can hold their. I think Pittsburgh can win if their offense doesn't play well. I don't think Green Bay can win if they don't get a big offensive performance. So I think if those teams weren't on a bye and were playing each other, I would like Pittsburgh in that game. But yeah, they're both two of the screwier teams. I think unpredictable teams.
Right, unpredictability. That's really where they lie right now. At least with us, we haven't figured them out anyway. Doesn't seem like maybe they have figured themselves out even for how they've been playing recently. I don't get it at all.
Well, I don't always get it either, and we didn't get it last week. Maybe we'll get it this week, and we'll end up winning most of our bets rather than losing most of them. But we'll find out. Any final thoughts on week 6 post Chiefs week 6? I think we'll be back normal time next week on Tuesday night to do. We're coming out again Thursday will be our next week's episode.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of get back into the swing of things, assuming I'm healthy again with my corona status. But it's I made it through this. I'm a little bit lightheaded right now, but I think we're almost done, so that's pretty good. And yeah, so I don't really have anything to add. I'm just kind of wandering here, rambling, but. So anyway, good luck to everybody if they are making bets or just following one of their favorite teams, and I hope that your team does well this weekend, and I hope that your bets pay off. And until next week, I remain Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. He remains Dr. Andrew Scaff. We remain the Morning Track Power Hour. Please remain subscribing or start a new a subscription to Morning Track Power Hour either on the podcasts or our YouTube channel. And we appreciate your viewership, listenership very much. And we will see you again next time. And until then, we will wish you a good day.